You've been feeling something lately, haven't you? A quiet pull that won't let you rest. A soft nudge in your spirit that whispers, look again, listen deeper. It's not anxiety, it's anticipation. It's not confusion, it's preparation. Something is shifting in the unseen. And whether you realize it or not, heaven has been preparing you for this exact moment. Not a moment to entertain, but a moment to awaken. You didn't stumble onto this message by mistake. You were summoned, pulled into this space not by chance, but by divine orchestration. Because God is ready to reveal something so personal, so sacred, that only your spirit will understand it fully. This isn't a word for your timeline, it's a word for your timeline in heaven. The one written before you ever knew what heartbreak felt like. The one still untouched by doubt, still glowing with promise. Yes, God has revealed who your future spouse is, but don't rush to figure it out. Don't try to guess or grab, because the way it's coming won't match the movies, the timelines, or even the lists you once made in your journal. No, this isn't about fantasy. This is about fulfillment. This is not infatuation. This is covenant. The person you've been longing for, they carry something eternal. They don't just answer your loneliness, they echo your calling. And here's where it gets deeper. They might already be near. You may have walked past them, dismissed them, or even loved them in another lifetime of spiritual unawareness. But now your eyes are about to open. And when they do, everything will feel both unfamiliar and deeply known. That stirring you feel, that inner trembling, it's not nerves, it's recognition. Your spirit already knows theirs. Before your heart even understands, your soul is already saying, it's them. If something inside you is resonating, if your heart feels like it just skipped into a memory it hasn't lived yet, type 777 in the comments. Do it boldly, do it prophetically. Let the angels record your yes. Let heaven know you're no longer resisting what has already been released. This is not about chasing, this is about receiving. And to those of you who've supported this sacred space, who've left prayers in the comments, who've lifted this work through your super thanks, I see you. More importantly, heaven sees you. Your seed is not in vain. Every moment you chose faith over fear, every quiet amen you typed in the dark, every offering of love you've given, God has remembered. You are a part of something bigger than views, bigger than followers. You are part of a move, a holy unveiling. Now stay with me, because what comes next might undo everything you thought you knew about love, timing, and what it means to truly be chosen. We're about to uncover not just who this person is, but how God is bringing them to you, and why it had to happen this way. Don't blink. This is holy ground. God's chosen ones. God revealed who your future spouse is. Are you ready? You were never late. You were never left behind. Before you ever prayed that first whispered prayer through tears, God had already begun arranging what would become a sacred convergence. While you walked through what felt like barren seasons, when silence echoed louder than answers, heaven was never inactive. Behind the curtain of delay, God was orchestrating a masterpiece that required the perfect timing of two hearts being readied not just for love, but for divine assignment. Could it be that the closed doors weren't punishment, but preservation? That the love you longed for wasn't denied, but delayed until your soul could receive it whole? Have you considered that every heartbreak was a recalibration, every lonely night a sacred refiner's fire? You weren't being overlooked, you were being aligned. Long before Isaac met Rebekah at the well, a seemingly ordinary place turned sacred by divine timing. God had stirred Abraham's servant with faith and specificity, Genesis 24. And still today, you may start noticing what feels like odd repetitions. A name spoken multiple times by strangers, a dream of a face you've never met but miss when you wake, a sudden invitation to a place you've never considered. Why does your spirit leap when logic cannot explain the pull? Why does peace fall like a veil in the presence of a possibility? As the artist and filmmaker Ava DuVernay once said, "If your dream only includes you, it's too small." She wasn't speaking of romance, but purpose, and divine partnerships are just that. Purpose-infused. This isn't about finding someone to end your loneliness. It's about encountering the one whose mission aligns with yours in ways you both sensed before you even met. What if your future spouse is not coming to rescue you, but to recognize you? Recall Moses in the wilderness, not discarded, but developed. Those 40 years of silence were not wasted. They were formative. God was burning pride out of him, carving courage into him. Exodus 3. Or consider Ruth, gleaning in the fields without knowing Boaz was watching her integrity from a distance. Her faithfulness in obscurity became the door to destiny. Ruth 2. You've been tucked away, not in hiding but in holy reservation. There's a difference between being unseen and being shielded. And now the veil is thinning. The alignment is near. How would you respond if the person you've been praying for is praying at the same time? For you, can your spirit recognize a love that heaven initiated? A young entrepreneur named Elias once felt a strange pull to book a flight to a city he had no business visiting. He didn't know that, at a quiet bookstore across town, Maya had felt the same nudge. They met at a poetry, reading neither planned to attend, and the moment their eyes locked, time seemed to inhale. They said little, but both carried the same invisible history of waiting, praying, growing. Months later, their stories aligned with eerie symmetry. Same heartbreaks, same scriptures, same midnight conversations with God. The choreography had been divine. Nature gives us a glimpse of this mystery. Think of how the monarch butterfly travels thousands of miles toward a destination it has never seen but instinctively knows. Generation after generation, it navigates toward one sacred place. And somehow, every single one arrives. Isn't your heart capable of the same flight path? Doesn't it ache with knowing even before seeing? Proverbs 19:21 reminds us, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." What you saw as delay was divine detail. What you called silence was sacred shaping. This union coming toward you is not aimless romance. It's prophecy manifesting. It's the kind of love that carries weight, that walks with God, that refuses to waste time. This person, your person, is not arriving with chaos or confusion. They are showing up with confirmation, with reverence and with a knowing. They've been refined, not rushed. They've surrendered cycles, not suppressed them. They've asked God for a love that mirrors covenant. When they see you, they will not flinch. They will not hesitate. They will not fumble. Because like Joseph, who interpreted dreams in a prison before stepping into a palace, Genesis 41, they have lived long enough in the shadow to recognize the light. And you are not waiting anymore. You are becoming. Because this love isn't about arrival, it's about revelation. The sacred unveiling has begun. There's something sacred about being fully seen and still deeply loved, not tolerated, not pitied, not chosen despite your story, but because of it. That's what's coming toward you. Something far too eternal to be manufactured, too spiritual to be explained away by chemistry or coincidence. Is it possible that love could arrive not to fix you, but to mirror back the healing already at work inside you? Could it be that the very parts of you you once tried to hide are the exact keys that will unlock recognition in someone else's spirit? Not because of your perfection, but because of your honesty. When Jesus met the Samaritan woman at the well, John 4, he didn't flinch at her history. He didn't shrink back from her pain. He revealed it with truth, yes, but he offered purpose in the same breath. He didn't see a scandal. He saw a vessel, a voice, a revivalist. That's what spiritual love does. It doesn't just accept you, it activates you. This love you're about to walk into won't require you to perform. You won't have to downplay your brilliance or overcompensate for your wounds. You won't have to calculate every word or rehearse every reaction. Their spirit will not be seeking polish. It will be seeking presence. And when they find yours, it will be like breath returning to lungs that didn't realize they were holding. Romans 8:16 tells us, "The Spirit Himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's children." That same Spirit is at work now, testifying between two souls designed to know each other, not through the mind, but through the Spirit. This recognition is not shallow attraction. It's the sacred resonance of covenant. Have you ever stood in the woods at sunrise when the mist slowly lifts from the earth and everything is drenched in golden quiet? That's what this meeting will feel like. Not adrenaline, not frenzy, but awe. When they hear your voice, something deep inside of them will remember what peace sounds like. And when you share your story, the beauty, the bruises, the breaking points, they won't turn away. They'll lean in, as if they've been waiting for this testimony to complete something inside of them. Could it be that your timeline was never behind, just building toward this one holy unveiling? You'll begin to notice it in the smallest ways first. A strange calm when you talk to them, a sense of relief that feels older than words, the kind of quiet you didn't know your soul was starving for. And in their presence, you'll stop rehearsing. You'll stop analyzing your worth through their reactions, because suddenly being known won't feel like a risk. It will feel like refuge. As Cardinal Raniero Cantalamessa, preacher to the papal household, once shared in a sermon, love that comes from God doesn't imprison the beloved. It frees them to become who they are meant to be in the eyes of heaven. This kind of love does not inflate your ego. It nourishes your essence. It gives permission for your spirit to stretch and expand, to return to the original shape God dreamed of when He created you. Do you remember Maya, a trauma therapist who had long accepted the thought that her calling was too weighty to ever make space for a deep relationship? But then, one quiet evening at a grief seminar, she met Jonah, a hospital chaplain who had been silently praying for someone who didn't need fixing, just seeing. They spoke for hours without a single mask between them. Neither could explain the magnetic calm. They called it chance, but heaven called it confirmation. This isn't chaos. This isn't butterflies and whiplash. This is the garden after the storm. Psalm 139 verse 16 says, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." And that includes this love, this moment, this turning point. You won't need to guess. You won't need to chase. You won't have to force timing, decode feelings, or pretend to be more or less of anything. Their presence will not disrupt your clarity. It will amplify it. And when they walk into the room, your soul will not spark in confusion. It will exhale in remembrance. Could it be that the home you've longed for is not a place, but a person prepared by God to witness your becoming, not just your arrival, that feeling in your chest? Don't dismiss it. That's the Spirit bearing witness. You're not losing your mind. You're being aligned. And your heart, with all its history, will finally feel held, not in hands that tremble, but in a soul that remembers. What if peace didn't arrive with explanations, but with quiet confidence? What if the proof wasn't in logic, but in how your body finally exhales in their presence? You might not be able to map out why your soul trusts them. You may not even know where the certainty comes from, and yet it is there, steady, gentle, unwavering. Philippians 4:7 reminds us, "And the peace of God which surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." That peace is not random. It's the signature of the Holy Spirit. When heaven ordains something, the soul recognizes its origin. It's not chaos, it's not confusion, it's clarity that needs no defense. Can you feel it now, quietly guarding the doorways of your heart? And yet, doubt tries to whisper, "But I've waited too long. But I've been hurt too deeply. What if I sabotage this?" Let's dismantle those lies right here. You cannot unravel what God has already woven in divine thread. You're not too broken to be chosen. You're not too complex to be understood. The love coming toward you is not intimidated by your layers. It's equipped to honor them. Look at Elijah under the broom tree, 1 Kings 19, begging God to take his life. A prophet, mighty, anointed, yet so deeply exhausted he wanted to disappear. And what did God do? He didn't rebuke Elijah. He fed him. He let him rest. He met him with gentleness. And when Elijah was ready, God whispered, not in the earthquake or the fire, but in the still small voice. That's how your future spouse will love you, not by overwhelming your wounds, but by listening for your soul's whisper. Is it possible that your tenderness is not an obstacle, but a divine invitation? Could your softness be the very thing someone else has been praying for in a world addicted to hardness? Why have you been taught to apologize for the depth of your feeling, when that depth is the same frequency heaven uses to deliver healing? Dr. Edith Eger, a Holocaust survivor and psychologist, once said, "Our pain is not a liability. It's our gift to the world when we've learned how to carry it." And you've been learning. Every ache, every loss, every moment you questioned your worth has been rewiring you for sacred reception. What feels like delay is design. Heaven has not overlooked you. It's been shaping the very one who will walk in as a living answer to your years of intercession. A young man named Solomon, not the king, but a street poet from Detroit, once shared that for years he prayed for strength, thinking it would come as steel. But then he met Delia, a quiet violinist who spoke rarely but loved fiercely. Her gentleness didn't make him weaker, it made him whole. He didn't need armor around her, he needed honesty. And for the first time in his life, peace felt louder than fear. Romans 8:18 whispers another layer of truth. The pain that you've been feeling cannot compare to the joy that is coming. And this joy, this holy unfolding, will not arrive empty-handed. It's coming cloaked in devotion, with eyes that see beyond the surface, with hands that are not afraid to hold what's sacred and scarred. Will you let yourself believe that faithfulness is still real? That someone can love you, not in spite of your past, but with full reverence for it? Can you receive a love that doesn't disappear when you're tired, doesn't compete when you shine, doesn't recoil when you cry? This person may not always say the right thing, they may not have the smoothest words, but they will be present, and their consistency will become a balm, not because they erase your trauma, but because they hold space for your healing. When you stumble, they won't step back. When you doubt, they'll stay. When your voice trembles, they'll listen. In the wild, there's a tree called the bristlecone pine. It's the oldest living tree on Earth, some over 5,000 years old. And yet, it only grows in harsh, rocky places where survival seems impossible. How does it live? Not by avoiding storms, but by learning how to bend without breaking. That is your love story. It won't flourish because it's easy. It will endure because it was rooted in eternity. You will no longer feel like you have to earn their loyalty or beg for their presence. Their faith will anchor yours. Their prayers will weave with yours. And their steady, unwavering presence will slowly silence every voice in your head that ever told you love was unsafe. You're not being teased by heaven. You're not being dangled on the edge of hope. You're being readied for permanence. The long wait, the deep ache, the nights of crying into your pillow, they were never empty. They were planting. And what's about to bloom is not temporary. It's covenant. There will come a moment so subtle it might pass unnoticed, when what once felt familiar begins to shift. Not dramatically, not violently, but undeniably. The rhythm of your life changes. The comfort you built starts to tremble. And your first instinct may be to hold tighter, to brace yourself, to wonder if something is falling apart. But pause. Could it be that nothing is breaking down, but everything is breaking open? When you feel the tremble, will you panic or will you perceive? Is it possible that the very discomfort you're resisting is actually heaven's signal that movement is happening? That love is not arriving in the future tense, but unfolding in the present? The one you've prayed for is not being formed someday. They're already here, already shifting toward you. And though your eyes may not yet behold them, your spirit has already received the invitation. The unseen has moved. The spiritual realm has recalibrated. Atmospheres have shifted. Can you feel it in your body? How even your breath feels different lately, as if some inner part of you is preparing to receive something you didn't realize was this close. Heaven's timeline is not subject to human urgency. It builds in layers. It waits for divine convergence, like the Red Sea that did not part in advance, but opened as Moses stepped forward. Exodus 14:21. So your pathway is unfolding, not before you walk, but because you walk. Are you willing to step forward before you see the split? There is a divine dismantling taking place, not as punishment, but as preparation. Can you trust that the fading of old desires, the slow, quiet departure of people once central to your life, is not random? That the unease in familiar circles, the sudden clarity in past attachments, isn't rejection, but recalibration. Isaiah 45:2 resounds in this season. I will go before you and level the mountains. I will break down gates of bronze and cut through bars of iron. What seems unmovable, God is removing. What feels like resistance, God is rearranging. What you thought was a closed door is a divine redirection. Do you have the faith to let it close fully? Pope Shenouda III, a spiritual giant of the Coptic Church, once said, "When God takes something away from you, it's because He's about to give you something better. Trust in the exchange. The love that's coming will not compete with your calling. It will confirm it. The partner being released into your life will not distract from your destiny. They will partner with it. They are not late. They're being led." A woman named Serena, a linguistics professor who had never believed in spiritual connection, kept waking in the middle of the night with the same dream, a name she had never heard, spoken in a voice she couldn't place. Eventually she met Ezra, a non-profit director, during a lecture in Geneva. They both froze the moment their eyes met. Neither could explain it. But months later they discovered that the name Serena kept hearing in her dreams was the Hebrew word for help, and Ezra had been praying nightly, "Send me helpmeet, not just a partner, but a soul companion." Divine choreography had been unfolding even as they slept. Psalm 37:23 declares, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and He delights in His way." You're not stumbling through randomness. You are walking into what has been arranged with surgical precision. The steps that feel slow are sacred. Every delay you endured, every betrayal you overcame, every season of stillness, it was cultivating your capacity to receive what flesh could never manufacture. And now, your spirit is not just waiting, it's responding. Your future spouse is being awakened by the same spirit that speaks to you. They may not understand why they feel unsettled, they may not know your name, but they feel you. Their soul is being pulled towards someone who feels like resolution, like sanctuary, and their restlessness is not confusion, it's calibration. They're being magnetized toward you. In nature, the Arctic tern migrates over 44,000 miles each year, from the Arctic to the Antarctic and back, without maps, GPS, or visible signs. How? Because it follows invisible lines in the Earth's magnetic field. So too, your paths are drawn, guided not by logic, but by divine alignment. You are not wandering, you are converging. Like the prodigal son who returned without even knowing what grace looked like until he saw it in his father's eyes. Luke 15:20. Your future spouse is moving toward you, not because they fully understand it, but because their spirit already recognizes the place they've never been. And you're not just preparing anymore. You're walking directly into what heaven has already said yes to. Let your heart see something sacred for a moment, something soft, honest, and shaped by fire. The person you're about to meet, the one who's walking steadily into your life, has also known seasons of hiding. Their wilderness wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Have you ever wondered if anyone could truly understand the depth you carry, the fire you've walked through, the weight of your waiting? Could it be that someone else has been whispering the same prayers in the dark, asking God for someone who doesn't just see the surface, but sees the soul? They too have outgrown shallow connections. They've felt the sting of being admired for their gifts, but ignored in their grief. They've endured people who applauded their potential, but ignored their pain. And in the quiet, they cried out, God, where is the one who sees me beyond my performance? That someone is you. This person isn't arriving with emotional volatility disguised as passion. They're not fumbling through love while battling unresolved chaos. They've done the work. They've embraced discomfort. They've walked through the furnace of refinement, not to emerge flawless, but to become ready. Like Jacob wrestling the angel through the night, Genesis 32:24-30. They've wrestled with identity, pain, and purpose, and they walk now with a spiritual limp, one that doesn't weaken them, but marks them as transformed. Will you be able to recognize the anointing in someone who doesn't carry perfection, but carries weight? They've learned what it means to wait without bitterness, to be alone without becoming hard. They've chosen depth over distractions. Their maturity isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, and saturated in prayer. They're not interested in performance. They're anchored in presence. And when they arrive, they won't ask you to change shape. They'll thank God that you remain true through the crushing. Saint Teresa of Avila, the Spanish mystic and reformer, once wrote, "It is love alone that gives worth to all things." And this person coming into your life has been formed by that kind of love, the kind that sits with suffering without fixing it, that honors silence as much as speech, that recognizes sacredness in the unspoken. A woman named Adira, a ceramicist from Florence, once shared how she met Leif, a Norwegian schoolteacher, while sketching alone in a train station. He didn't interrupt her process. He sat beside her and listened to the silence. Over time, she said she felt understood in places I didn't even know were asking to be seen. Their love story wasn't lightning. It was slow rain. It didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived with healing. Can you allow love to come wrapped in difference? Will you stay open when the answer to your prayer doesn't look like the image you built in your lonely season? What if their accent makes you listen harder? What if their rhythm teaches you a new dance? What if what's unfamiliar is actually the language your spirit has spoken all along? God has a long history of using the unexpected. Think of Samuel nearly passing over David because he didn't fit the image of a king. 1 Samuel 16:7. But God corrected him. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Your person may not look like the fantasy, but they will sound like home. They will speak your soul's language, not always with words, but through timing, consistency, and reverent presence. They won't shrink from your shadow because they've befriended their own. They won't flinch at your intensity because they've learned to honor fire when it burns with purpose. They won't need you to dilute your softness because they've prayed for a love that feels safe, not just exciting. Nature teaches this too. The oyster creates its pearl not in ease but in irritation. Layer by layer, beauty forms around discomfort. Your love story is not a polished performance. It's a sacred accumulation of growth, healing, and surrender. This person won't fall in love with your highlight reel. They'll see the raw, the complex, the divine fingerprints in your struggle, and love you more for it. And when they reach for you, it won't be to mold you. It'll be to meet you. Not to possess you, but to partner with the purpose within you. So don't harden your heart when the form surprises you. Don't close your spirit when the packaging defies expectation. What's coming is not generic affection, it's prophetic recognition. And you'll know it not because it dazzles, but because it disarms. Sometimes the answer you've waited for doesn't come loudly. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It doesn't look like what you envisioned in the lonely hours of longing. But it comes, quietly wrapped in divine accuracy, clothed in humility, carrying weight you can't see with human eyes. Do you remember Gideon, trembling in fear, threshing wheat in secret when the angel of the Lord called him mighty warrior? Judges 6:12. The label didn't match the posture, but it matched the calling. Or Rahab, whose history might have made her disqualified in the eyes of man, yet she became a thread in the lineage of Jesus. Matthew 1:5. What others dismissed, heaven redeemed. And even Jesus, the Messiah himself, entered the world through a manger, raised in Nazareth, a place no one thought greatness could come from. As John 1:10-11 declares, he was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. How often do we risk missing God's movement simply because it's unfamiliar? Could it be that the one God sends to you won't come packaged in your preferences, but wrapped in God's presence? Are you willing to recognize alignment even when it disrupts your assumptions? There will be no guessing games, no cryptic signals, no exhausting mental gymnastics trying to interpret whether their affection is real. When something is authored by God, it doesn't bring anxiety, it brings assurance. You won't be left wondering. You'll be grounded in knowing. Galatians 5:22 reminds us of the evidence. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness. These fruits aren't accessories. They're indicators. They will be embedded in their pursuit, stitched into their presence. Peace will not be the absence of tension. It will be the presence of divine order. There's no striving in covenant, no pretending in holy connection. This love won't pressure you to shrink to fit. It will expand with you. It will breathe with you. It will invite you deeper, not farther from yourself. Maya Angelou, the legendary poet and civil rights activist, once said, "I don't trust people who don't love themselves and say, 'I love you.' There is an African saying, 'Be careful when a naked person offers you a shirt.'" The person God is sending to you has already clothed themselves in identity, worth, and spiritual responsibility. They're not arriving with holes, expecting you to patch them. They're coming as a whole soul ready to walk in wholeness with you. Jude, a wildlife conservationist from Tasmania, often said he'd given up on love that made sense on paper. Then he met Camilla, an aerospace engineer who had nothing in common with him except one thing: spirit. They'd both been praying for alignment more than compatibility. Their first conversation felt less like discovery and more like remembrance. Years later, Jude shared, "She didn't complete me, she recognized me." You won't need to beg for love that's yours by promise. You won't have to perform for someone who's been prepared to perceive you. The love coming toward you won't ask for less emotion. It will celebrate your passion. It won't dismiss your wounds. It will protect their healing. Ephesians 2:10 declares, "We are God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." That includes covenant relationships. That includes the one who will hold your vision in their heart and call out the parts of you that even you've forgotten. They'll walk beside you, not because life is easy, but because the assignment is sacred. Could it be that the one you've prayed for is not looking for entertainment, but eternity? Will you know how to recognize someone whose love doesn't inflate, but stabilizes? Who doesn't romanticize your light while avoiding your shadows? Who doesn't run when life gets heavy, but kneels in prayer and stays? Their presence won't distract you from God. It will direct you deeper into Him. Their consistency will repair what chaos tried to unravel. Their integrity will become the safe ground your soul learns to trust again. Nature reveals this same truth. The moon's gravitational pull guides the ocean tides not by force, but by gentle, persistent rhythm. That's what this love will feel like: inevitable, unforced, deeply aligned. It won't demand to be seen. It will be unmistakable. This person is coming to build, not consume. They will pray with you, plan beside you, and protect what God has entrusted to both of you. Not because they feel obligated, but because their spirit delights in covenant. And you won't feel out of place. You'll feel at home, fully known, fully honored. Let it land. Let it break through every wall that heartbreak, delay, or disappointment ever built around your spirit. Let this truth disrupt the lie that says love must be earned through exhaustion or kept by performance. What God is sending your way isn't wrapped in striving. It's rooted in sovereignty. Could it be that the ache you've felt for years wasn't proof of being forgotten, but evidence of a preparation far deeper than you imagined? Could it be that the restlessness in your spirit isn't frustration, but recognition that divine timing is unfolding right under your feet? What's approaching isn't just a chapter, it's a turning point. This is not the climax of a romance novel. This is a divine insertion of purpose, a sacred collision, a spiritual strategy birthed from the throne room itself. And if you've ever felt like you were too far behind to receive it, hear this now. You haven't missed it. You're arriving right on time. God never sends chaos in covenant form. Heaven's gifts are not laced with confusion. This person being released into your life is not just bringing affection, they're carrying assignment. They won't just stand beside you, they'll walk with you toward destiny. This is not a distraction, it's deployment. You've felt the internal shift, haven't you? That tightening in your chest when old cycles try to reclaim your loyalty. That sacred unease when you're in environments that no longer reflect your growth. That quiet voice that keeps inviting you to let go, not out of punishment, but positioning. What if that nudge wasn't anxiety? What if it was heaven speaking? Luke 5:37-38 reminds us, "No one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise the new wine will burst the skins. No, new wine must be poured into new wineskins." What God is sending requires new capacity. You cannot receive sacred love in structures built by survival. You must stretch. Imagine the blue morpho butterfly. When it emerges from its cocoon, its wings are not blue because of pigment. They shimmer because of microscopic layers that bend light. Their beauty is not what they carry, but how they were transformed. That is you. And that is this love. Not painted on, but revealed through layers of becoming. It's not just healing from heartbreak, it's resurrection after burial. It's joy rising from ashes, as promised in Isaiah 61:3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning. That's not poetry, that's prophecy, and this love will fulfill it. You're not going back to who you were before the breaking, you're becoming who you were born to be because of it. Renowned Catholic mystic Henri Nouwen once said, "Our wounds are not the end of the story, they become the place where God's glory dwells." And your future spouse, they won't try to erase your wounds, they will see the glory in them. Not because they're perfect, but because they've been broken too. Amari, a Kenyan trauma surgeon, once said she didn't believe she'd ever meet someone who could sit with the pain she held in silence. Then came Luca, a disaster relief photographer from southern Italy, who never asked her to explain her grief. He honored it with quiet presence. Years later, they married, not because their lives aligned perfectly, but because their spirits already had. They built not from perfection, but from purpose. This relationship will not compete with God in your heart. It will carry Him. You won't feel tension between love and calling. You'll feel their unity. You won't be asked to dilute your voice to be loved. Your voice will be needed in the vision you build together. 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. This love won't send mixed signals. It will carry clarity. You won't have to decode intentions. You'll recognize alignment. You won't have to strive to be enough. You'll simply be received. And if you wonder, but what if I'm not ready? What if I miss it? Hear this. You cannot sabotage what you surrender to. You cannot ruin what God has sealed with divine purpose and a willing heart. Alignment is not manufactured. It's discerned. So breathe. The wilderness you walked through was not in vain. The empty hands, the tear-stained pillows, the silent prayers, they were seed. And now the ground is trembling, not in warning, but in welcome. This is not the return of something you lost. It's the arrival of something you've never had. And when it comes, it won't knock you off balance. It will root you. You'll feel it the moment it arrives. Not because of grand gestures, but because your spirit will finally exhale. And as their eyes meet yours and heaven bears witness, you'll know what your soul has always longed to whisper. This is the one. This is home. And the one God is preparing for you, they are already in motion. Even if your eyes have not yet met, their spirit has already begun responding to your presence. You are not waiting alone. The pull they feel toward growth, the new ache for more than surface-level living, the holy frustration with places and people they once tolerated. This is not restlessness. It's alignment in progress. Have you ever considered that someone out there is being prepared because of your prayers? Could it be that they're shifting cities, leaving comfort zones, chasing truth they don't yet have language for, not because of random curiosity, but because their spirit is tuning itself to yours? Is it possible that the sudden hunger they feel for depth, healing, and spiritual wholeness is heaven moving them closer to your frequency? Just like Joseph in Genesis 37 received dreams long before he stepped into Pharaoh's palace, this person is being stirred by dreams too. They may not understand the symbols yet. Their heart may be heavy with questions. But what they're walking through now is sacred prelude. When the moment comes, and it will come, it won't feel like guesswork. It will feel like destiny unveiled. 1 Corinthians 14:33 reminds us, God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. So when they arrive, there may still be work to do, but there will be peace. Not perfection, but purpose. You won't need to keep asking if they care. You won't need to audition for their attention. You will not be tolerated. You will be treasured. And you've been feeling it, haven't you? That sudden urge to declutter your space. That unexplainable decision to fast, to cancel an old subscription, to journal again, to start waking early and praying with a different kind of fire. That isn't compulsion. That's the Spirit inviting you to prepare for promise. Just as the Israelites had to consecrate themselves before stepping into the promised land, Joshua 3:5, you too are being summoned to create spiritual space. God is not just sending a person. He's entrusting you with a partnership, one that requires internal readiness, not perfection, but purity, not performance, but posture. Can you sense it? The atmosphere around you becoming weightier, quieter, more expectant. That's not pressure, that's prophetic stillness. God is whispering, make room. Purify your atmosphere, release the noise, prepare the altar of your heart. Release the voices that taught you love must cost you your dignity. Let go of the scars that told you chaos was passion. This time, love will not bring you to the brink of emotional starvation. It will nourish you. It will reflect not just your desires, but God's design. As Mother Teresa once said, God does not call us to be successful. He calls us to be faithful. The one he is sending isn't arriving with performance metrics. They are arriving with spiritual commitment. They don't want to impress you, they want to build with you. A real estate developer named Samir once shared how he sold off his booming downtown business to pursue seminary training, unsure why he felt pulled into ministry. He later met Zaya, a theology professor in Lisbon, who had just lost her husband and sworn off connection. But when they spoke, they both wept. "I didn't know who I was preparing for," Samir said, "but now I know I was studying with her in mind before I ever knew her name." This is not romance alone. This is restoration. This is Ephesians 3:20 in motion. Now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. You thought you were asking for someone who would stay. Heaven heard your soul asking for someone who would build. This person is not coming to fill a void. They are coming to co-labor. They are not simply loving you. They're partnering with God to honor what he has placed in you. They will call forth purpose from your pain. They will guard your peace without being asked. They will recognize your history, but not reduce you to it. Imagine two riverbanks shaped by different landscapes, each carving their own path through stone and soil. For years they never touched, until one divine convergence joined their streams. The result was not chaos, it was strength. That's you and them. Separate for a season, but designed for union that multiplies momentum. So, if the shift feels heavy, let it come. If the quiet feels holy, let it rest. The promise is not delayed. The promise is approaching. And when it arrives, you will not question its name, because your soul will recognize what your heart has been prepared to hold all along. This is more than emotional healing. This is generational reformation. The kind of love God is releasing into your life isn't just for comfort, it's for kingdom reconstruction. Through this covenant, healing will not only flow between two individuals, it will pulse through bloodlines, rewriting stories and redeeming names. What once was inherited pain will become inherited peace. What was passed down in silence will be broken by blessing. Can you grasp that your children, whether born or spiritual, will rise with new languages of love because of what you agree to now? Can you sense that the very soil of your family tree is being tilled for new fruit? That the curse that hovered over your lineage is being dismantled, not by might, but by this holy union. This is not about romance, it is about reformation. This is not just about intimacy, this is about legacy. Will you say yes? Not to perfection, not to certainty, but to obedience. Will you say yes to letting go of lesser agreements? Yes to strange instructions that make no earthly sense but resonate deeply with your spirit? Yes to that quiet inner tug that says, prepare, something sacred is approaching? Say yes, not because you have it all figured out, but because heaven has already written your name into a timeline that your logic is just now catching up to. Right now, the realm you cannot see is shifting. Angels are not waiting for your perfection. They're responding to your posture. Assignments are being activated. Oil is being poured on your name. Your future spouse is being awakened. Their appetite is changing. Their past is losing power. Their vision is sharpening. Their obedience is deepening, not because they've seen your face, but because they've felt your pull and your role. Stay in position. Stay surrendered. Stay tender. Stay grounded. You will not miss what heaven marked with your name. You will not be denied what has been sealed in glory. The timing will not be manufactured. It will be divine. The encounter will not need manipulation. It will be unmistakable. And the confirmation? It won't only come through signs and external voices. It will rise through your very bones. Your spirit will bow in recognition before your mind has language for it. God does not give you revelation to torment you. He gives it to prepare you. He gives it to posture your life for alignment. And this, right now, is not imagination. It's invitation. Psalm 56:8 tells us God collects your tears. Luke 12:7 says He numbers the very hairs on your head. Isaiah 49:1 speaks of how He called you by name before anyone ever saw you. How could a God so precise in the private details of your design be careless about your covenant? Do you think He would leave your future to fate when He held your form in His hands before time began? Do you believe He would allow just anyone to walk beside you when the calling on your life was carved in holy fire? He prepared Adam, not just with rest, but with identity before presenting Eve. He didn't yank Eve from outside. He drew her from within Adam's very rib, from under the place closest to the heart. That is the nature of the love being crafted for you. Not just someone who looks compatible, but someone who was created in parallel. Not a supplement to your solitude, but a solution to your spiritual design. Archbishop Desmond Tutu once said, "God is not waiting for perfect people. He's calling willing people into divine assignments that outlive their insecurities." The one coming into your life isn't perfect, but they are postured. They've been formed in fires you'll come to recognize. They've surrendered patterns you've also broken. They won't just meet you, they'll mirror the journey you've walked. Naya, a midwife from Ghana, felt an unexplainable urge to leave her city for a year of study in Spain. There she met Joel, a jazz cellist recovering from burnout. In their very first conversation, Naya said, "It feels like we've been growing toward each other before we even knew the other's name." They didn't fall in love. They rose into it. This is what heaven does. It doesn't just send you comfort. It sends you covenant. It doesn't rush you into romance. It roots you in revelation. A eucalyptus tree sheds bark layer by layer, not to appear beautiful, but to survive and thrive in harsh climates. That shedding leaves behind scars that look like art. So too, your process has been marked by divine shedding, not to expose you, but to equip you. Every scar now speaks the language your person will understand. This love isn't arriving to take center stage in your life. It's arriving to reinforce the altar, to partner in purpose, to reflect God's nature in the form of human fidelity. So, if you've ever wondered if your love story matters to God, let this moment destroy your doubt. He is the author, the orchestrator, the covenant keeper, and when His hand moves, it never trembles. This is the season where the veils begin to lift, not by human effort, not by emotional striving, but by divine unveiling. What was hidden will no longer remain buried, not because you fought for it, but because heaven has deemed it time. You're not being asked to push your story forward. You're being invited to posture your heart for what's already approaching. Can you feel it? That quiet, holy rearranging. Have you noticed how you've stopped entertaining what once distracted you? How the clutter in your physical space started to feel like a mirror of your inner world? Why is it that silence suddenly feels more sacred than noise? Could it be that your soul has been hearing the sound of preparation long before your mind caught up? God is doing the lifting now. His Spirit is going ahead of you, making crooked paths straight, leveling out emotional terrain, softening what was once calloused, and redirecting your footsteps toward divine appointment. What used to drain you now repels you. What used to attract you now feels spiritually foreign. This isn't fear, it's readiness. This isn't paranoia, it's discernment. You're not becoming obsessive, you're becoming ordered. You're not desperate, you're discerning. As Noah built the ark without seeing a drop of rain, Genesis 6:13 through 22, and Mary carried the promise of salvation in her womb before anyone believed her story. Luke 1:26 through 38. You too are being called to prepare in faith, without applause, without full understanding, without visible confirmation. Why does this feel so tailored to your spirit? Why do these words feel like they're echoing what your heart already knew but couldn't articulate? Because God has been speaking to you, not just in thunder, but in subtle shifts. The song that broke you in the car, the verse that wouldn't leave your mind, the dream that haunted you with clarity, the decision to walk away from what once felt good but never felt holy. These weren't emotional glitches. They were divine instructions. Isaiah 30:21 says, Your ears shall hear a word behind you, saying, This is the way, walk in it. When you turn to the right or when you turn to the left, you've been guided all along, not by loud declarations, but by inner knowing. And still, do you wonder if all of this matters to God? Do you ask yourself if He really cares about your ache to be fully seen and still fully safe? Could it be that your deepest longing isn't for love itself, but for alignment? For someone who can hold your heart without crushing your purpose. God is not just answering your prayers for connection. He is answering your identity, your cry to be held without being drained, your ache to matter without being used. He is not throwing crumbs of affection at your hunger. He is crafting covenant. Bishop T.D. Jakes once said, You cannot conquer what you will not confront, and you cannot confront what you will not identify. And you've begun to name the misalignments. You've begun to confront the places in your own heart that once sabotaged what was sacred. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. In Brazil, there's a rare species of tree, the guapuruvu, that sheds all its leaves just before blooming with thousands of golden flowers. To the unaware, it looks like death, but it's actually preparation, shedding for glory. So too, your recent shedding, habits, people, thoughts, isn't loss. It's God clearing space. Kayla, a forensic analyst from Manchester, began having recurring dreams of water rising around her. At first, she thought it was anxiety, until one day in prayer, she heard a phrase whispered in her spirit. It's time to rise with it. Weeks later, she met Mateo, a youth pastor from Chile, during a virtual justice panel. They didn't speak of love for months, but both later confessed, something sacred moved the moment we heard each other's voice. The flood wasn't fear, it was alignment. God is not withholding anything from you. He's preserving it. Psalm 84:11 promises, No good thing does He withhold from those who walk uprightly. That includes the person who will not simply tolerate your fullness, but treasure it. The one who will pour into you as you pour out, who will match your depth, honor your softness, and walk with you through destiny's demands. Don't confuse divine silence with divine absence. Heaven has been anything but quiet. The stillness has been protection. You weren't being overlooked, you were being hidden for impact. He preserved the oil in your jar, your empathy, your wisdom, your fire, for someone whose hands were clean enough to carry it. And now the oil is ready. Not to be wasted, but to be poured. What's approaching is not a recycled chapter dressed in better language. It's not the return of the familiar in a new disguise. This isn't heartbreak rebranded as opportunity. This is a love authored by heaven. And because of its origin, it may at first feel foreign to your old framework. Not in a way that unsettles your spirit, but in a way that invites you to evolve. Have you ever felt hesitant to trust something that didn't trigger your defenses? Could it be that peace feels strange only because you've made survival your home for too long? Are you willing to unlearn the idea that chaos is romantic and instead accept that calm can be sacred? This love will not fit the mold you crafted from past pain. It won't mirror the dysfunction you once normalized. It will be gentle where you were braced for hardness. It will be consistent where you used to prepare for withdrawal. And yes, you'll have to grow into it, because healthy love won't shrink for you. It will stretch you, not to wound, but to widen. You will learn that vulnerability is not weakness, it's worship. That mutual sacrifice is not codependency, it's covenant. That being seen is not a threat, it's the fulfillment of divine design. Genesis 2:25 says of Adam and Eve, "They were both naked and felt no shame." This is the kind of love being sent, one where exposure meets safety, one where transparency is met with tenderness. As this love forms, don't be surprised if your vision grows alongside it. Why? Because this isn't a private blessing, it's a generational strategy. This union will not just make you feel alive, it will activate legacy. Your prayers from midnight seasons will become declarations in daylight. Your table will be more than a place of meals. It will be a place of ministry. Your children, natural or spiritual, will grow up in the overflow of this alignment. Your story will break generational shame off of someone else's family line. What felt like personal delay was actually the divine weaving together of something multi-generational. Could you accept that your home is being fashioned into an altar? That the love you receive is not just for you, but to revive your bloodline? Are you willing to live like your obedience today is the foundation for your grandchildren's freedom tomorrow? Write it down. Speak it aloud. Don't just pray for them. Prepare for them. Clean your atmosphere. Purify your habits. Cultivate the character you long to receive in someone else. Because the way you wait says everything about who you believe is coming. Psalm 27:14 says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." This isn't passive hoping. This is warrior-level faith. This is waiting with your sleeves rolled up and your heart bowed down. This is fasting, journaling, repenting, dreaming, stewarding. Author and therapist Dr. Thema Bryant once said, "We often say we're waiting on God, but God is often waiting on us to get in position, to mature, to release the counterfeit." This is your invitation to move, not away from the promise, but toward it. Callum, a Christian photographer from Cape Town, had a dream about a woman who led worship in Portuguese. He thought nothing of it until months later, at a youth revival in São Paulo, he heard her voice before he saw her face. "I didn't recognize her appearance," he said, "but my spirit had already said yes." And when it comes, this will be your experience too. You won't need to wrestle with doubt the same way you used to. You won't have to dissect every word or replay every message. The peace will anchor you before the confirmation ever arrives. In the Pacific Northwest, the Sitka spruce tree can grow roots that interweave with others across vast distances underground, creating a hidden network of support. These trees survive storms not because they stand alone, but because they're connected below the surface. That's what this union will feel like. Not loud, not showy, but rooted, stable, and unshakable. You've done enough wandering. Now is the time to walk with holy precision. The veil between what is promised and what is present is paper thin. What you prepare for now will determine what you're positioned to receive. Faith is not passive. It's movement. It's sanctified momentum. So when your soul says finally, it won't be out of desperation. It will be born from the faithfulness of a God who never forgot the blueprint. And when the door opens, you'll walk through it, not surprised that it's real, but confident that you're ready. If you truly believe that heaven is orchestrating a divine union on your behalf, then the invitation is not just to wait, but to walk. Not to hope vaguely, but to prepare tangibly. This is the season where faith is not just a heart posture, but a lifestyle. So what would it look like if you began to live each day as though your future spouse were already on their way? What would shift in your choices if you knew that your alignment today would determine the strength of your covenant tomorrow? Would you continue entertaining conversations that echo old patterns? Would you still linger in environments that drain your discernment? Or would you wake up and begin shaping the atmosphere of your life to reflect the magnitude of the promise that's approaching? This is the hour of intentionality. You were never meant to be idle in the name of waiting. Wake up with purpose. Let the first breath of the day be a holy invitation. Speak to God with clarity, not just vague cries for love, but sharp requests for formation. Lord, form me into the kind of person my covenant needs. If you desire a partner who is emotionally grounded, spiritually rich, and assignment-driven, then permit God to do the work of refinement in you as well. In 1 Samuel 16, before David ever stood before Goliath, he was in the fields with sheep, becoming faithful in obscurity. His anointing didn't arrive in a palace. It arrived in his posture. Could your pasture season be the very ground God is tilling to grow your capacity to carry this next level love? And yes, this work will be private before it ever becomes public. This means confronting the spaces within you that still bleed silently. The insecurities that whisper, "I'll never be enough." The fear that says, "They'll leave just like the last one." What if the next level of love isn't being delayed by others, but by the areas in your own heart still guarded by fear? You cannot receive the kind of intimacy you long for while still hiding behind emotional barricades you've refused to lower. Invite God into those ruins. Let him sit where shame once reigned. Psalm 34:18 declares, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." That nearness isn't only for comfort, it's for transformation. Don't just ask someone else to love you whole. Let God do the healing work first. There's a physical preparation too. Yes, even your space is a prophetic mirror of your expectation. Is your home in chaos while you pray for peace? Is your bedroom cluttered while you long for clarity? Begin with what's in your hand. Make your bed not as routine, but as declaration. Wipe the counters as an act of surrender. Light a candle not to set mood, but to set intention. Set the table for two and not one, not for performance, but for faith. This is exactly what the Shunammite woman did in 2 Kings 4. She didn't know when the prophet Elisha would return, but she built him a room anyway. She created space before the blessing ever arrived. That's the kind of prophetic action God honors. What room are you making now that declares, "I'm not waiting to be chosen, I'm preparing to be joined"? Pope John Paul II, a spiritual father to generations, once said, "The future starts today, not tomorrow." That means your alignment isn't a plan for later, it's an act of now. The way you respond to this word reveals what you believe about your future. Are you willing to live in agreement with the promise even before you see the manifestation? Naima, a choreographer from Morocco, had a dream where she kept setting an extra place at her breakfast table. She didn't understand it until weeks later, when a guest speaker at a women's retreat she almost didn't attend sat beside her and introduced himself as a mission partner. 6 months later, they were engaged. It wasn't coincidence, it was prophetic choreography. This is the time to evaluate not only your environment, but also your relationships. Who gets access to your inner world? Are the voices around you reinforcing your faith or rehearsing your fear? Are you surrounding yourself with people who call you higher, or those who pacify your distractions? What if the delay hasn't been demonic but strategic? What if heaven has been clearing out counterfeits to make room for covenant? Isaiah 30:21 assures, "Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" That still, small voice isn't noise, it's navigation. Have you begun to declutter your life out of exhaustion or out of revelation? Could it be that the urge to clean your space, switch your routines, fast unexpectedly, or purge old conversations is the Spirit preparing you for sacred partnership? In the quiet discipline of honoring your space, your time, and your energy, you are not just tidying, you are tilling the soil of your legacy. Just as the snowmelt of spring carves deep into mountain soil, preparing unseen roots for the bloom to come, your spiritual obedience is carving channels for abundance to flow. You are not merely waiting for someone to choose you, you are becoming someone worthy of the choosing. And not because of perfection, but because of preparation. Choose a community that strengthens obedience. Are you sitting with people who pray for you, even in rooms you're not in? Can you welcome solitude if it preserves your peace? Remember, before God gave Adam a partner, He gave him a place, a purpose, and His presence. Genesis 2:7-8. Your current aloneness doesn't signal deficiency, it signals rooting. So what does rooting look like today? It might mean setting emotional boundaries with family who drain you. It could be entering therapy, not as a confession of failure, but as a declaration of wholeness in progress. Could this be the season to choose healing over familiarity? Perhaps it's journaling, fasting, exercising, or reading books that train your discernment more than your fantasy. What would it mean if the private discipline you build now becomes the fertile ground for your public destiny? What if your future covenant depends on your current stewardship of your time, finances, and energy? Luke 16:10 warns, "Whoever can be trusted with little can also be trusted with much." Have you been handling the littles faithfully? Are you generous where generosity matters and disciplined where it demands attention? Show up, not to perform, but to participate. Speak commitment when silence is cheaper. Write that blog, share your testimony, serve locally, take the class, apply for the bold opportunity. Don't retreat from the world while you pray to be found within it. Are you preparing to be seen? Your divine encounter may not happen in a sanctuary. It may happen at a cafe table, in a church hallway, at a wedding aisle, or on a delayed flight. God needs not flashy stages, but your faithful yes. When fear rattles, when whispers tell you you're too much, too late, or too flawed, where will you anchor? Will you return to His word? Will you speak it aloud? Psalm 27:14 says, "Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." Could waiting actually be active, not passive? Could it look like obedience wrapped in patience? St. Augustine once reflected, "God is closer to us than we are to ourselves." If that's true, then every conscious step you take toward holy humility is a step closer to the covenant He's preparing. Take the example of Enoch, who walked with God so consistently that Scripture says he was not, for God took him. Genesis 5:24. Do you sense the ordinariness of his walk until it became extraordinary? That can be you. Ava, a software developer from Medellin, said she felt prompted to attend a startup mixer despite her aversion to networking. While standing in line for coffee, she met Isaac, a Christian social entrepreneur. Their connection wasn't explosive, it was steady, rooted in shared calling. Their plans now include launching a non-profit together. It began with obedience, not attraction. Notice how the moss under old trees thrives, not because the forest is perfect, but because the canopy is consistent. The soft green is evidence of stability above. That's your spiritual atmosphere, a steady canopy of obedience, enabling unexpected growth. Are you ready to prepare, to root, to align? You're not just waiting, you're growing. Let your action echo your faith. Then, when your future spouse comes, whether gently around a corner or boldly through an open door, the timing won't throw you off, because your walk has been marked by intentional readiness. Let this become more than a memory verse. It must become your rhythm. Worship even when fatigue hangs heavy on your chest. Praise even when questions sit at the edge of your tongue. Let every inhale whisper, I believe he's moving, even now. This isn't the time to entertain counterfeits because loneliness knocked louder than discernment. If someone's presence leaves you more anxious than anchored, your spirit has already answered. If someone's affection requires your silence instead of your alignment, that isn't love. It's manipulation wearing perfume. Will you continue to water what God already called finished? When Saul kept trying to reclaim what God had rejected, 1 Samuel 15, the cost was his destiny. Don't repeat that story. Let the almosts rest. Let the not yets stay uninvited. This is not a house for confusion, it's sacred ground for covenant. Pray now, not out of fantasy, but from spiritual authority. Bless your future spouse today. Call down protection over their mind and peace into their body. Speak boldness over their voice and clarity into their decisions. Ask the Father to guide their steps into obedience, to shelter their heart from counterfeit affections, and to prepare them to receive your love without fear. Because when you intercede before they arrive, you don't just prepare the meeting, you consecrate the union. A builder doesn't wait to love, they train for love. Are you becoming someone who won't just receive the promise but will sustain it? Will your hands know how to steward not just romance, but calling? Mother Teresa once said, do small things with great love. Every act of patience, every boundary you set, every quiet night you choose faith over fear, that's your foundation being laid, brick by sacred brick. I once knew a school teacher named Mariah who spent her weekends volunteering with refugee children. She hadn't met her husband yet, but for months she'd been praying over someone whose name she didn't know. On a rainy morning, she was assigned to tutor a new child, and the man who brought him in turned out to be her future husband. Their first conversation wasn't fireworks, it was alignment. Their first agreement wasn't on attraction, it was on mission. Months later, they admitted they'd both been praying the same prayer every Saturday at the same hour. That's not magic, that's divine coordination. Even the redwood forest grows only because its trees link roots underground, supporting one another in storms. You are being rooted now for something you cannot yet see, but will recognize the moment it arrives. And when it comes, because it will come, it won't look like a rescue. It'll look like a run. They won't arrive to lift you from wreckage. They'll show up to run beside you in calling. You've done the work. You've cleared the space. You're not waiting helplessly. You're becoming someone that heaven trusts with covenant. This is divine timing. It doesn't just show up. It transforms everything that follows. Will you begin to live like the door is already swinging open? Because it is. So here you stand, beloved, right on the edge of something holy, not because you manipulated timing, but because heaven said, now. What you once called delay was actually design. What you once mistook as silence was sacred preparation. That tug in your spirit, that strange peace that refuses to leave, that shift in your appetite for surface-level love. It isn't imagination, it's invitation. God has not merely been orchestrating events in secret to bring someone into your life. He's been actively shaping the internal terrain of your heart so that when the promise arrives, your spirit is mature enough to hold it without trembling. The waiting wasn't just about timing, it was about trust, transformation, and divine transfiguration. This union is not a medal for endurance. It's not heaven's thank you for suffering well. It's the physical evidence of a spiritual covenant. This is the reflection of His goodness, His covenantal mercy, and His breathtaking intentionality. As Deuteronomy 7:9 says, "Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping His covenant of love to 1,000 generations." You've been tried in the fire, not to be destroyed, but to be refined. Like gold forged through intense heat, your character has been shaped to hold weight without cracking. The kind of love that's coming requires spiritual, tensile strength. Not just capacity to feel, but capacity to carry. Are you ready not just for a partner, but for a co-laborer in destiny? Let your surrender sound louder than your fear. Let hope rise not from calendars, but from covenant. Let your heart remain tender, even if it's still healing. This is where faith meets fulfillment, not in noise, but in clarity. Not in striving, but in stillness. Do you believe you can be chosen without chasing, seen without shouting, held without having to perform for it? Because you can. Stay in position, stay yielded, stay soft enough to love, strong enough to discern, and wise enough to wait without manipulation. The promise is not just coming, it's converging with your alignment. And when it arrives, it will not feel like performance. It will feel like provision. It will not pull you into chaos. It will plant you in peace. As Isaiah 32:18 declares, "My people will live in peaceful dwelling places, in secure homes, in undisturbed places of rest." Breathe again. You haven't prepared in vain. Not one act of obedience, not one sacrifice of comfort, not one tear slipped past heaven's eyes. Everything is being folded into the tapestry of legacy. This wasn't about getting a relationship. It was about becoming a reflection of divine order. Do you see it now? This is the kind of story where faith becomes flesh. This is the Abrahamic moment where what was promised begins to breathe. And like Abraham, your belief wasn't just counted as hope, it was counted as righteousness. Romans 4:3. Let me tell you about a man named Elias, a widowed father who hadn't opened his heart in over a decade. He didn't pray for romance, he prayed for rest. One night, after leading a small Bible study, he met a woman who didn't try to impress him. She simply listened. Her presence was quiet, but her discernment was thunder. She later became his wife, and together they built a mentorship ministry for single parents. That wasn't chance. That was prophecy walking into manifestation. The red-tailed hawk rides the currents without flapping its wings, because it trusts the wind. That's the season you're in now, not forcing, just flowing, not striving, just aligning. And if you still doubt whether your love story matters to God, ask yourself, would He really bring you this far just to tease you? Would a God who counts your tears waste the ones you cried at midnight? The answer is no. He's too precise, too faithful, too invested in your becoming. So if your heart is stirring, if your spirit is rising, if your lungs feel filled with a hope that can't be explained, this is your sign. This is your summons. Say it aloud. Declare it in the comments, not for show, but for sealing. I receive this promise. I am prepared. I am aligned. Let heaven hear it. Let your soul echo it. Let that be the hinge that swings open the next chapter of your story. And now, beloved, let this truth settle deep into your spirit. What you've been preparing for is not a fantasy. It's a fulfillment. The love God is bringing into your life is not just about emotion, it is about elevation. It's not merely about connection, but about divine covenant. You were not waiting in vain. You were being positioned for legacy. This is not the season of just hoping, it's the season of stepping in. It's time to walk like the door is already open. It's time to speak like the promise is already alive. It's time to prepare like heaven has already signed off on your next chapter, because it has. And now, your only assignment is to stay surrendered, stay faithful, and stay aligned. Because when this love arrives, it will not confuse you. It will confirm everything God has already whispered to your soul. It will not drain you. It will multiply your peace. It will not test your identity. It will bless it. And when you look back, you'll see that every delay was design, every silence was sacred, and every no was making room for this undeniable yes. So, if this word has resonated with your soul, If something inside you feels awakened, stirred, called higher, I invite you to respond. Like this video as an act of agreement. Share it with someone who needs to remember that love from God is not chaos, it's clarity. Comment below and declare with faith, I receive this promise. I am prepared. I am aligned. Let that be your spiritual agreement, your moment of yes, your key of activation. Don't just consume this word. Come into covenant with it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more prophetic insight and divine encouragement to keep you aligned with heaven's rhythm. Tap the notification bell so you never miss the moment God speaks directly into your season. To everyone who supports this channel, whether through super thanks or simply by showing up, you are seen, honored, and deeply appreciated. Your presence here is not accidental. You're part of a remnant that is rising, and I'm grateful for you. Whether you sow financially or just lend your heart to listen, thank you. You matter more than you know. And now I speak this blessing over you. May the Lord go before you and make every crooked path straight. May He give you discernment in your waiting, strength in your preparation, and joy in your fulfillment. May the person He's sending be covered, protected, and aligned to meet you at the appointed time. May your heart be whole. May your soul be steady. And may your life become the living testimony that God writes better stories than we ever could imagine. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not forgotten. You are becoming. And what's coming next is not just love, it's legacy. Now walk in faith, because the door is already open.